Emma Parker never thought her life would be defined by choices she didn't make. Born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, she grew up in a family where tradition mattered more than individual dreams, and appearances were treated as a form of currency. From a young age, Emma was taught how to sit properly, how to speak politely, how to smile even when her heart was sinking. In the Parker household, emotions were considered careless, dreams impractical, and love something that came after security, not the other way around. Her father, Richard Parker, was a well-respected attorney with a spotless reputation. Her mother, Linda, was the perfect Southern hostess, composed, graceful, and always immaculate. They believed Emma would follow the same path, seamlessly slipping into the role of the ideal Southern daughter, then the ideal Southern wife. By the time Emma turned 22, she already knew what was coming. She just didn't know how to stop it. Chapter 1. The Wedding She Never Wanted. The day of her wedding felt strangely muted. The world outside was full of sunshine and blooming magnolias, but Emma's chest felt heavy, like someone had set stones inside her ribs. She stood in front of the mirror in her lace gown, while her mother fastened the last button. "You look stunning," Linda said with gentle pride. "Nathaniel is going to adore you." Emma forced a smile that barely lifted her lips. Her mother didn't notice. Nathaniel Brooks, wealthy, polished, ambitious, 10 years older, was exactly the kind of man her parents wanted for her. His family owned a chain of resorts along the East Coast. He was respected, stable, and from a good family. To the Parkers, the match was perfect. To Emma, it felt like a door closing. Her father knocked and stepped inside. "Ready, sweetheart?" "Ready," she whispered, though every fiber of her soul screamed no. The ceremony took place in a lavish garden behind the Brooks family estate. White chairs, soft music, hundreds of guests. Emma barely knew. She walked toward Nathaniel, who stood tall and confident, smiling as though he'd just acquired another prized possession. When the officiant asked, "Do you take this man?" Emma hesitated for 2 seconds too long. Her mother's sharp inhale echoed behind her. Her father's stern gaze tightened. Nathaniel's smile dimmed into warning. Emma swallowed her fear. "I do." The applause that followed felt like chains snapping into place. Chapter 2. The Marriage Without a Heart. At first, Emma tried. She tried to be the wife her parents expected her to be. She tried to be the partner Nathaniel wanted. But the house she moved into, a spotless mansion with marble floors and a sweeping staircase, felt nothing like home. It felt like a museum where she didn't belong. Nathaniel's affection was conditional, predictable, controlled. He didn't yell often. He didn't need to. His disappointment was a silent blade. His expectations were laws. "You're spending too much time with your old college friends. That dress is too informal. Do not contradict me in front of my business partners. You don't need a job. People will think I can't provide for you. Why are you emotional about everything?" Whenever Emma pushed back even slightly, he acted wounded, as though she failed him, as though she owed him gratitude. He monitored who she talked to. He criticized how she cooked, how she decorated, how she expressed herself, even the way she laughed. "You laugh too loudly for a woman your age," he once said. And so she stopped laughing freely. As months passed, Emma became a ghost in her own life. Her world shrank into routines, careful words, polished appearances, rehearsed smiles. One night during a charity gala Nathaniel hosted, Emma accidentally knocked over a glass of wine. It splashed onto Nathaniel's sleeve. A tiny mistake, one anyone could have made. When they got home, he didn't yell. He didn't hit her. He didn't even raise his voice. He simply looked at her with cold disgust. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone," he said. "I expect you to behave better." Something in Emma cracked. She realized that emotional wounds could bleed, even without bruises. And that silence could be a weapon sharper than any blade. Chapter 3. The Breaking Point. 2 years into the marriage, Emma no longer recognized herself. She woke up numb, moved through the day on autopilot, and went to sleep hoping tomorrow would feel different. It never did. One evening, after another tense dinner, Nathaniel criticized the way Emma prepared the salad. Saying she never paid attention to detail. The argument spiraled. "You're ungrateful," he snapped. "I'm trying," she whispered. "Not hard enough. Why can't you just—" "Because I expect my wife to act like a wife." She froze. He stared at her, breathing hard, waiting for her to fold. But she didn't. Not this time. "Maybe I'm not meant to be your wife," she said quietly. Nathaniel's eyes turned sharp, dark. "If you ever walk out that door, you're on your own. Don't come crawling back." She didn't answer. She simply went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and cried. But somewhere inside that storm of tears, a spark ignited, small but alive. "I can leave." The thought was terrifying, but it was the first thought in years that felt like hers. Chapter 4. The Escape. Emma waited until 3 in the morning. The house was silent, the world asleep. She packed a small duffel bag, a few clothes, some savings she'd secretly put aside, and the necklace her grandmother had given her. She didn't want anything else from that house. When she stepped outside, the cool night air felt like a blessing. She got into her car, hands trembling, and drove. Through the quiet suburbs, past the sleeping city, onto the open highway. She didn't know her destination. She just drove until the sun rose, a gentle golden light over the Tennessean hills. The small town of Willow Creek appeared on the road signs like an invitation. Population, 4,800. Peaceful, quaint, forgettable. Exactly what she needed. She found a cheap room above a bakery. The owner, Mrs. Collins, was a warm older woman who didn't ask many questions. She simply handed Emma a key and said, "You look tired, sweetheart. Rest." For the first time in years, Emma slept without fear. Chapter 5. A New Life in Willow Creek. Willow Creek was small, cozy, and beautifully ordinary. People greeted each other on the sidewalks. Stores closed early. Strangers held doors open. Emma found work at Riverbend Diner, a charming roadside cafe with red bar stools and checkered curtains. The owner, Jake Morrison, hired her after a 2-minute conversation. "You any good with people?" he asked. "I try to be," she answered. "That's all we need." The days were long but healing, serving coffee, chatting with locals, feeling like a person again. It was during one of these shifts that Emma first met him. Chapter 6. Luke Harrison. Luke Harrison walked into the diner late one evening, wearing a dusty gray t-shirt, work boots, and a tired smile. His dark brown hair was messy, and his hands looked like they spent most of their time fixing engines. "Evening," he said, as he sat in a booth near the window. Emma approached with her notebook. "What can I get for you?" He looked up at her, and for a moment his eyes softened with genuine warmth. "Coffee," And maybe one of those blueberry pies everyone in town won't shut up about. She smiled, a real smile, not the polite, practiced one she'd worn for years. Good choice. Luke became a regular. Every other day, same booth, same order. He always asked how Emma's day was going, not out of politeness, but curiosity. He listened, he laughed, he made her feel visible. He never flirted, never pushed, never pried into her past. He treated her like a human being, something she had almost forgotten she was allowed to be. Chapter 7. The slow bloom of something real. Weeks turned into months. Emma and Luke's conversations grew longer. He told her about his small auto shop, his younger sister, his love for old country music, and how he restored vintage motorcycles in his spare time. His life wasn't glamorous, but it was full of heart. Emma found herself opening up too, cautiously at first. She told him she loved reading, that she never got to travel, that she was trying to figure out who she was. Luke listened with a quiet focus that made her chest warm. One evening, after closing the diner, they walked together along the river. Willow Creek's water shimmered under the lampposts as fireflies floated around like tiny lanterns. "Do you ever feel like you lived someone else's life?" Emma asked. "All the time," Luke admitted. "But then I realized no one else gets to live ours. We're the ones behind the wheel." She looked at him, simple, honest, grounded, so different from anyone she'd ever known. For the first time in years, Emma felt her heart stir. Not with fear, with possibility. Chapter 8. Love Born from Freedom. The shift from friendship to something deeper was gradual, organic, inevitable. One afternoon, Emma slipped on a step outside the diner. Luke, who happened to walk by, caught her before she hit the ground. "You okay?" he asked, concerned. Emma nodded, flustered. But Luke didn't let go right away. He looked into her eyes, really looked, and something passed between them. A quiet understanding. A shared tenderness neither of them dared to name yet. Later that week, they were sitting on the hood of Luke's truck, watching the sunset. "I like being around you," Luke said softly, almost hesitantly. "More than I probably should." Period, and Emma's breath caught. "I like being around you too." He didn't rush. He simply reached out and gently intertwined his fingers with hers. It was the safest she had ever felt. Their love grew not from grand gestures, but from slow, steady moments. Shared breakfasts, long laughs, quiet confessions, small touches that felt like healing. Chapter 9. The past finds her. Emma knew peace couldn't last forever. Her past, like a shadow, eventually found its way to Willow Creek. One cold afternoon, as she stepped out of the diner, a black luxury sedan pulled into the parking lot. Nathaniel Brooks stepped out. Her heart stopped. The world tilted. "Emma," he said sharply, "we're going home." Luke, who had been fixing a sign nearby, instinctively moved closer. Emma's voice trembled. "I'm not going with you." Nathaniel's expression darkened. "This is ridiculous. You're my wife." "I was," she corrected softly, but firmly. "Not anymore. Not in any way that matters." "You think you can run off with some mechanic?" Nathaniel snapped. Luke took a step forward, but Emma touched his arm, stopping him. She didn't want to fight. She wanted freedom. "Nathaniel," she said, steady now, "you don't own me. You never did." He stared at her, stunned, not used to her standing up for herself. "This isn't over," he threatened. "Yes," she said quietly. "It is. Nathaniel glared one last time, then drove off, his anger echoing in the cold air. Emma exhaled shakily. Luke wrapped his arms around her without a word. She had never felt stronger. Chapter 10. A home found, a heart freed. Life didn't magically become perfect afterwards, but it became hers. Emma filed for divorce. Nathaniel contested it at first, then eventually gave up when he realized she was no longer the timid girl he once controlled. Emma moved into a small apartment near the river. She decorated it with thrift store finds, warm lights, second-hand books, and pieces of herself she was rediscovering. Luke became a constant in her life, not because she needed him, but because she chose him. One autumn evening, they sat on the porch swing outside her apartment. The air smelled like cinnamon and falling leaves. They watched the sky turn orange, then pink. "I'm proud of you," Luke said. "For what?" "For choosing yourself." Emma smiled. "I didn't do it alone." Luke shook his head softly. "You did more than you think." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for being patient with me. You were worth the wait." For the first time in her life, Emma Parker, no longer the girl who lived by others' expectations, felt whole. Not because she found a man, but because she found herself. Love didn't save her, freedom did, and love followed. Epilogue. Where freedom begins. A year later, Emma and Luke opened a small bookstore cafe in Willow Creek, a dream Emma once thought she'd never be allowed to have. They called it The Second Page. Locals gathered there for coffee, stories, and warmth. People said Emma glowed now. Not the fragile glow of someone pretending to be happy, but the quiet, steady glow of someone finally living her truth. One evening, Luke locked up the shop, walked to Emma, and wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Ever think about how far you've come?" he asked. Emma looked out at the calm street, the gentle lights, the life she built. "Every day," she whispered, and in that moment, she understood. Freedom wasn't a place. It was a choice. One she would keep making. And she finally knew. She was exactly where she was meant to be.